Order, please. Everyone rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, we have that signed up for public speaking.
Yeah.
Private commentary.
Elizabeth Bolton.
And just when you get up, say your name and address and record, please.
Elizabeth Holton, 96 Lanesville Road. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Holton, and I'm a lifelong resident of New Milford. This town has always been close to my heart, and when my husband and I decided to buy a home here, we were excited for our children to experience the same sense of community and opportunity I cherished growing up. I'm here tonight to echo the voices of those who spoke at last week's public hearing. I come not only as a parent of 2 current and 1 future students in our public schools, but also as a teacher at Hill and Plain Elementary School. I'm here to urge you to reinstate the money that's been removed from the Board of Education budget. The fight for adequate funding for our schools is not a new one. I remember as a student in New Milford Public Schools watching my mother and the PTO fight tirelessly for the resources our schools needed. Today, this argument being made that our staff is outnumbering the students, I can assure you that the staff we have is absolutely essential. Yes, our student population has declined in recent years, but the needs of our students has grown significantly. Our school district now serves an increasing number of multilingual learners, students with special needs, and to provide them with a fair and effective education, we have to have teachers and staff who are specifically trained to meet those needs. Additionally, the social and emotional challenges our students face are more pronounced than ever. As a teacher, I rely on social workers and counselors to address those challenges, ensuring that all students can thrive both academically and personally. I understand the need for a balanced budget, but when the balance comes at the cost of cutting critical services, it is the students who are going to suffer. These cuts won't just affect the staff, they'll impact our children, who are the future of this town. We call ourselves the greatest of all towns, but great towns invest in their students. Now is the time for New Milford to make that investment because the future of our town depends on the education we provide our students. Thank you.
Mike Sinello.
Mike Sinello, 111 Willow Springs. So I was the guy several years ago that wheeled in a literal hand truck stacked 4 feet tall with studies that demonstrated that overall public spending on public education K through 12 is not correlated with educational outcomes K through 12. Those studies also demonstrated that class size in the same is similarly not correlated with educational outcomes. I also released a video on my YouTube channel detailing said research with links included in which looked at actual and publicly available outcome metrics for each of New Milford public schools at the time, demonstrating a negative trend, which continues to this day, all despite overall inflation-adjusted per student spending increasing. For the record, that video is on YouTube, and it's entitled The Truth About Spending in Public Schools, What Works and What Doesn't. What those studies additionally found was that what happens in the home accounts for, depending on what study you go by, 60 to 80% of educational outcomes, which is why reducing tax burdens often actually results in improved educational outcomes. The grand lesson of all that research was that the single best predictor of educational outcomes by far is parental involvement. This is why the further you remove students from top-down government-run educational systems, the better the outcomes, and why, for example, homeschooling has by far the best demonstrated educational outcomes. You can't get more parentally involved than homeschooling. The taxpayers don't have infinite money. The Board of Finance has a duty to produce a budget that will actually pass at referendum. As it currently stands, this budget will not pass. Unlike in previous years, opposition to this budget is not along partisan lines, and political inertia won't be enough to carry it across that proverbial line. Worse, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars coming from the Landfill Settlement Fund as generic revenue for tax relief. As noble as this effort is, according to our own town attorney, this is not a legal use of those funds. At the very minimum, that revenue should be returned and offset by a reduction in expenditures. This is going to mean taking a lot of money out of both the municipal and Board of Education Board of Education proposals. This is going to mean doing the politically difficult thing. But the members of the Board of Finance, the Town Council, and the Board of Education are all elected officials who ran for office knowing they would have to make difficult decisions. For the Board of Education, that may mean having the guts to lay off a small handful of teachers and or administrators based on things like peer review and actual outcome metrics, and not strict seniority, and allowing class sizes to increase by a trivial amount. And yes, the 0.6 of a student that was debated over when this type of reduction was discussed several years ago, over the elimination of one fifth-grade math teacher for over $100,000 in total savings, is trivial. A second referendum is itself a complete failure of this entire process, and you are the last stopgap against that. Please do the right thing.
Sure. Any other people want to do public comment? Okay. Before I start, I want to let people know there's a full board here. The 7 members that were elected. We have 2 alternates, Rolando Castro and Nick Garofalo. They can take part in any discussion on amendments or anything like that, but they do not have a vote. With that, I'm going to go to item 3 of the agenda, discussion and action on total town budget as passed by the Town Council in the amount of $123,942,588, with the town side and the Board of Education portions of the budget acted separately. I will act first on the town side and put a motion to discuss and take action on the town side of the budget in the amount of $47,905,001. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, amendments.
Yes, I would like to propose an amendment to the town budget to reduce it by an amount of $295,000.
To reduce by $295,000. We have a second to?
Second.
Okay. Well, it's your amendment, Ellen. Do you want to speak to the rationale behind that, or?
Yes, my rationale behind that is I'm going to, when we get to the Board of Education budget, make a motion to restore the $295,000 that the Town Council took out of the Board of Education budget. I believe that needs to come from the town side. The Board of Ed gave us slim and limited a budget as they possibly could. We've heard a lot of statements in support of the budget as it was originally proposed. And if the town believes that we need to reduce by $295,000 come from the town side, I think there are a number of departments that can well afford to take part of that out of their budgets for 2026.
Pete?
Mr. Chair? Yep. So where would you take them from?
That can come, from my perspective, that would come from the most, the line items in the budget that have the largest expenses.
So you don't have line item control, you have categories. So which categories would you take $295,000 from the town side of the budget?
I would take it probably out of capital or the materials and supplies.
And if you take it out of capital, you know that when you did look at your 5-year capital plan, you did notice that next year, capital requests from the department are over $11 million. So you would be kicking the capital down the road. Meaning that today's dollars, if you were going to buy a capital item, next year, inflation is going to make that product or capital higher than this year. So I'm just trying to understand. As far as you're looking at it, it's okay to defer that capital to the next year.
I'm not sure I want to say that. But I do believe that our departments with the largest budgets, there's room in there. So I believe that comes under materials and supplies and capital. others have better judgment about where those should be coming out of. I'm
So-
very open to it.
Yeah, just so I'm understanding your motion, the 295, how much would you take out of capital and how much would you take out of material and supplies?
Since you're holding my feet to the fire, and that's fair, I frankly, then let's take it all out of material and supplies.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chair, are we dealing with two amendments or one?
Right now, there's one amendment clarified by the discussion between the mayor and Ellen. Reduce the town side budget by $295,000 and with the recommendation it comes out of material. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions on this?
Are we gonna, would I have an opportunity to make an alternative motion? Or are we voting on the budget as a whole now, or how, just, let's walk through the process real quick.
Okay,
I
what
wanna
we'll do
understand.
is vote on each amendment as they are presented. If Ellen's is voted down, then everybody else has an opportunity to add different amendments. Even if this is passed, you still have an opportunity to amend it. But we're just gonna go one at a time to keep things easily understood.
Okay.
No further,
Mr. Chair, there was no second to the motion.
yeah, there was.
Oh,
Joe,
I'm sorry, Joe.
I gotta give your team a
You're right
chance.
across from me. I'll put my glasses, oh, they are on.
Mine are rose colored, because I'm seeing life through the rosy glasses.
All right, Joe.
Okay, no further discussion is offered. We will take a vote on the amendment as presented by Ellen Conklin. Walter?
No.
Ellen?
Yes.
Brian?
No.
Joe?
No.
Joe DiGorio?
All right, because, yes, I'm gonna vote yeah.
Okay,
No.
and no. That's two yeses and 5 noes. So the amendment doesn't carry. Okay. Any further amendments?
Mr. Chair. The original proposed amendment was, budget was 125 million? Or was it,
No, as passed by the town council?
well, the town council debated the budget, was that 125 million?
No, I don't have that in front of me right now.
Okay, let-
123.
124, 388, 342. You get that? 124, 388, 342.
Oh, okay.
Here, you wanna?
Then the percentage, if it stayed at that, the percentage rate would be, I
So you're
got it down all kinds of numbers here, 401,
Walter, you're talking
499,
about the mayor's budget as the,
as originally proposed.
Olga, do you have that percentage on that?
The mayor's recommended?
Yes, the mayor's recommendation.
The mayor or town council, Walter?
As originally proposed by the mayor, that went to the town council before,
Before the amendments. Before the amendments?
Yeah.
Before the town council acted on it.
That's the amount that Joe just read out. It was about 124 million and change.
Yeah, do you have a percentage increase?
what would the percentage increase
In the
be?
mill rate or in the total budget?
The budget.
But the budget was like.
No, I wouldn't recall that. Oh, it was 3 point,
3.95?
no, that sounds about right.
As proposed by the mayor,
Correct.
and that would be 3.95.
And then
Oh, no, the total,
and then the town council is 3.59.
Okay. Well, then, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment that we restore the $100,000 cut to the town side of the budget. To me, $100,000, frankly, out of a
a budget, total budget of 124 is rather minuscule.
Is there a second to this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second it for him.
Let me rephrase that again. I'd like to propose restoration of the $100,000 cut to the town side of the original proposal by the mayor. And if the percentage, well, the percentage would include the Board of Education budget. My feeling is send it to the people. Let the people decide on that. If the original percentage, combining both the town and the Board of Education, as originally proposed by the mayor and by the superintendent of school, the Board of Education, is only going to be $395 increase, then send it to the people. Let the people make that decision, not this board of 7. So I will go back to my original amendment. I propose that we restore the $100,000 to the town side of the budget as proposed by the mayor. Frankly, I consider that a drop in the bucket. Why cut it?
Anybody else have any discussion on Mr. Bear's proposal?
I would just like to ask Walter a question. Do you believe the budget will pass, not just because you want to send it to the people, but without the council making the amendment? Do you believe it'll pass?
Well, if it's 3.95, and if you look at the other towns and what the percentage of votes are, or a percentage, they're over 4%, 5%. I think it has a shot, yes.
I just want, the question, Mr. Chair, I asked that question just because we're just trying to get it to pass, you know, without having to go to another round of voting, because that's going to also cost us some money.
Vote it down. That's all you do. You vote it down.
We can't predict how the voters are going to vote. All we could do is use our best judgment to come to a dollar amount that we feel the town will pass on the first go-around, hopefully the first go-round. Does anyone else have any questions or discussion on this motion? Amendment, I should say. Seeing none, we'll vote on Mr. Bear's amendment. Walter?
Aye.
Alan?
No.
Brian? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Brian.
Yes.
Yes?
No.
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 And I'll say yes. And that'll be 4-3 against the motion, so it fails. Anybody have any new amendments to the town side of the budget? Joe?
All right. So on the town side,
And we're just talking the town side, Joe. Yeah,
I got you.
yeah. I just want to make
the
sure
town side.
everybody,
Don't worry, Walter. I'm not going to go too far off.
you
the
know, there's a
rails.
lot of people here and on the video at home that may not, follow this as closely.
Can I do 2 separate amendments, or should I package? I have 2 different things I'd like to do. Should I package them together?
I should package them together.
Package them together. All right. So the first thing that I would like to address is the landfill settlement fund. I feel like that was entered in there in error as the deliberation at town council on January 27th of this year, where they voted to extend the landfill settlement fund ordinance, extended it as the ordinance was written. And that puts that particular revenue line item, which I believe is 49,505 in the budget book, as a carryover kind of from last year. Now, based on what Town Attorney Randy DeBella stated, at roughly 2 hours, 30 minutes, something like that, 2 hours, 36 minutes into that deliberation, he said that the funds cannot be used for tax relief in this budgetary cycle. So I'd like to correct that mistake and remove the $900,000 of revenue that the town would be taking out of the landfill settlement fund.
So is that, so you're moving to amend to reduce $900,000?
To reduce $900,000 from the revenue category of our 5 categories of the budget. I believe it's revenue. Is that correct? It's not other than tax revenue? Is that what it would be in?
No, it's under, transfers in.
Transfers in.
Yeah, but I believe it's 4,505.
Is it? I just want to make sure I take out of the right thing. I don't know. I don't want to take it from taxes,
It's
right?
waste
Yeah,
management
it says
transfers
waste
in is
management,
sufficient
yeah.
to
Transfers
identify
in.
the line.
So whatever the landfill settlement fund line item is, I think it's 49,505. I could double check on that. I should probably make sure. So that being said, I'd like to do that. Now, to kind of piggyback on what Ellen was saying, I'd also like to reduce the town budget to make up for some of that lost revenue. But I'm going to go a little more than you, Ellen. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to go $300,000, just because it's a nice round number. I don't need the 295, right? The $300,000. And I would personally think that we should take that from capital, because if you look at the rolling actuals and budgetary and budgetary line items year over year from like 22 to 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, from budget to actual, we typically don't spend what we budget in that capital line item, partially because the town's fiscal responsibility in using surplus spending to prepay some of those items. So my recommendation would be that council look at some of those prepaid items that we've spent in, for large items and use it.
Is there a second, then discuss?
Oh.
Second.
I'll second it.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Should I start over?
No, I got you.
Rolando goes no. Right, so I would recommend town council look at, if there's a town council person out there, look at some of those prepaid items so that we can make up for some of the lost revenue. I'm sure if you take a look at, 57,400, 59,901, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there where we're purchasing some large items. We could probably bond some of those things or, forego some of that spending for this year. Let me just double check on the other transfers in. Do we know where that is, Olga?
It's under finance department, and it is 49505.
49505. We'll go with that. Whatever category that falls.
Any discussion? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Just for the record, as obviously the Board of Finance makes decisions as far as revenue, the landfill settlement fund. So I know there's been a lot of banter about can you use the landfill settlement fund. Just wanted to clarify how we would use it and the use of the landfill settlement fund. So I had Randy DeBella craft, which Walter has, and I'll make sure it's in the minutes, his opinion. And what he stated is, Dear Mr. Bass, this follows my meeting and discussions with myself, Finance Director Olga, Board of Finance Chairman O'Connor, and my additional review of the advisory from our auditor, Michael Van Dever, CPA, all relating to the use of the landfill settlement fund ordinance. He has it in parentheses, the ordinance proceeds post-2024. I also reviewed the account balance in the minutes of the Town Council January 2025 vote to continue enforce the terms of the ordinance relating to the funds previously available and appropriated as annual budget revenue pursuant to subsection 5, category 5 of the ordinance, but not expended. I learned that this is a claim that the use of those funds at this time of the proposed 25-26 budget is illegal. That conclusion is incorrect. The right to expend funds that were lawfully appropriated and thus authorized by the legislative body for the assignment to the general fund, but unexpended, does not lapse. The ordinance does not have a use it or lose it language, nor is the town penalized by not expending it as a result of physical prudence or discipline. The appropriated funds here, $1.5 million, remain in the general fund as part of the unassigned fund balance. The money, having been lawfully appropriated, remains available for expenditure in the town budget, just like the funds from any other revenue source. The reason for the January resolution, which was roughly akin to a congressional continuing resolution, was to formalize the legislative body's recognition and understanding that Category 5 funds, both appropriated and unappropriated but authorized, are not frozen due to the cessation of the waste management payments or fiscal year end. and therefore continue in force. In fact, as a matter of law, the prior actually appropriated but unspent funding of the budget remains functionally a part of the unassigned funds balance in the general fund. Mr. Van Dever and Director Olga agree with my analysis. It is axiomatic. I don't know what that word is. I'd have to ask Dr. Parlato or somebody from the board to help me with that. That the after funds have been properly appropriated, they may be expended without additional appropriation. I am told that for fiscal year 21, 22, 23, and 24, a total of $2 million was appropriated by way of ordinance. Only $500,000 of that total was expended or assigned. Accordingly, it is my opinion that 1, it is lawful and proper to include previously appropriated but unexpended monies from Category 5 of the ordinance in its current budget without additional appropriation, in this case $1.5 million. 2, the Board of Finance may consider the balance of the available funds for 21, 22, 23, 24 under Ordinance Category 5 that were not appropriate but are available only after Town Council and Town Meeting approval, consistent with Mr. Van Dever's advice. Going forward, fiscal 2024, and after the still available but unappropriated Category 5 funds from 21 through 24 are actually lawfully appropriated, the town may not use landfill settlement funds for general fund assignment or expenditures unless the ordinance is revised to permit general fund inclusion. Failing that, Category 5 will then cease to exist. Very truly yours, Randy Tabella.
May I ask
That's
a
for the
question?
minutes. Absolutely.
So you're saying that there's $1.5 million in the unassigned fund right now?
Olga?
No, what we're saying is there could have been.
Could have been.
We just did not actually transfer it. So it's more the mechanics. It was incorporated into the budget. We just did not physically, brought it into general fund. Had we done that, it would have fallen to the bottom line and would have resided in our unassigned fund balance. So therefore, going back, just because we didn't draw at that time at year end doesn't mean that appropriation was lapsed.
So it reverted to the fund?
It remained in landfill settlement fund.
Remained in the fund. It was never never taken out.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So do you mind?
Absolutely.
So I would agree with him that if we don't spend the money, right, that we haven't unlawfully appropriated the funds, right? We haven't taken the money from the fund. However, we do have money from the assigned fund balance for tax relief transferred in, right, of $2.28 million. Then we also have the $900,000 as operating transfers in. So it's not for the specific purposes outlined in the landfill settlement fund, which would be education, open space, right? We're not specifically taking that. And because we're after the year 24, where we could use those funds for tax relief, right? Fiscal year end closing 24 was the last time that Randy DeBella very clearly states in his recommendation to town council on video, and I could probably find the clip and play it if it would be helpful, that you can't use the funds for tax relief. They can't be used for tax relief.
Correct, Joe. After the year 2024.
Correct.
What this letter is saying is, for instance, in the year 2022, Olga, did we use any landfill settlement fund?
No.
0. But we had the ability as the town to use 10% of that, which is $2 million. So we still have the availability to use, for even that 1 year, $2 million of the waste management fund, even in this year, because that money was never taken out. And according to the ordinance, right, you can't take anything out after the year 2024.
I think that's some roundabout legalese logic that doesn't sit well with me personally.
No, I understand. Totally understand. But that's...
Let's take the money out of the unassigned fund then, instead of waste management fund.
But
I would say, Joe, that would be a really good idea, but we need to be really cautious because we have a settlement that maybe could or could not be the amount of money that was awarded because they still have the availability to go back and appeal it. So I would recommend not doing that just for the fact of we don't know what our final number is going to be as far as an award, which is why I've kind of been quiet, because it's still kind of in a litigation mode until they decide to either appeal, or the appeal expires and then it's the full amount, or they could go back to court.
And just so I'm clear on Attorney DeBella's letter there, my understanding is that years past, we have appropriated, and the town council has, Board of Finance, town meeting has, and the voters have all approved use of those funds. They haven't been used, but they are now, according to this, available to be used as they were previously appropriated. So we're not using new money going forward. Okay, it's money that's been appropriated.
I would caution the use of that previously appropriated language, because the funds are currently shown in the balance of the Waste Management Fund. They were not appropriated and taken from the Waste Management Fund and put into another fund, right? So in order to continue to appropriate those funds, I would definitely argue that you have to go through the entire process of appropriations, and we can't use those funds for tax relief. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I only play one.
And Joe, I would, as you and I have talked before, I have said after we're done with this budget thing, that we are going to set up a committee, of which, you know, you'd said that you had interest in being on it as well.
I would love to.
Where it'll be Board of Finance, town council members, where we discuss the landfill settlement fund moving forward.
So did we use the 500,000 that was appropriated in '24?
Yes.
Fiscal '24, we used
That
it for
amount
tax
we did-
relief?
Correct. It wasn't for tax relief, just to meet our budgeted amount. So 500 was actually transferred from waste management into general fund to meet our budgetary target.
And what about 2025?
Well, that has yet to be determined. It is currently in the budget. It was included in fiscal '25 budget, but that's something that is dealt with at year end, depending on overall performance, and then the decision is made whether to draw or not.
So the 2 million, there's still 1.5 million available. If I understand what you were saying, Olga, we used 500,000 one year.
Well, from prior years, because
Yes,
yes,
that's
we
what
did
I'm
not
talking
draw
about, yeah.
anything in 21, 22, 23. We did not draw anything from waste management, even though we had it in the budget.
It was appropriated.
Correct.
Any further questions or clarifications or questions on?
Clarification, this is for the town and the Board of Ed now.
Just the town.
This is just a town
Just the town.
discussion right
Okay,
now.
Joe.
900,000 from revenue, 300,000 from capital.
Okay,
$1.2 million.
Okay.
fair enough.
My comment is I'm very loath to reduce revenue, because we don't really know how much revenue we're going to take, or take in over the next fiscal year. We don't know, state reimbursements can change. I was in Hartford today, and there was significant talk in the LOB Legislative Office Building about figuring out how they can get money to maintain it. And under the laws right now, they can't. So they're talking about ways maybe they can, referring to the guardrails for those that are familiar with the state budget. And then we've also got what's going on in Washington, D.C. with regard to monies coming in, not going to the state, not going to the towns. I
Could always transfer
loathe
money in
doing
Milford.
that, taking, revenue away. It's just my opinion.
It's not really revenue, though. It's savings.
It's the ability to use,
You could always dip into savings later.
we'll differ on that, Joe. We'll agree to disagree. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Okay, so if I understand your amendment, Joe, you're going to leave the 900,000 reduction in revenue, and then you're going to reduce the town budget by 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that would go to 47,600,000. $605,001.
Yes.
Okay. Since there's no other discussion, we'll take a vote on the amendment. Walter?
No.
Ellen?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you say yes? I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Ryan? Ryan, no?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes? No? So, how'd that, four yeses, that means the amendment has passed. The town budget has been reduced by $300,000, and the revenue line has been reduced by $900,000.
And that's out of capital, right, Joe?
Cap. Yes.
The $300,000 is out of
$300,000,
capital. That completes, unless someone else has any other amendments to discuss on the town side? Any amendments? Any amendments? Hearing none, we'll now move on to the Board of Education.
You have to vote on the amended budget or no? That's
Well, once we do, town budget, town side is set at that, Board Education will set, then we take the total between the two, and then, you know, pass for the entire thing, vote on the entire thing. So the Board of Education budget as presented by the town council, $76,037,587. I have a second.
Second.
Any amendments? Ellen?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, we got Ellen first, then you, Walter, and then whoever else after that.
I'd like to make a motion to restore the $295,000 that was removed from the Board of Education budget.
Second.
So we're increasing the 76,037,587 by 295,000. Any discussion? Questions? Joe?
This is just to restore the $295,000 for that the town council took out. There's no specific recommendation or anything or deficiency you see in the budget?
No, I believe that the Board of Ed, you know, I reviewed their deliberations over the budget, and it looks like they took really a fine pencil to it. You know, and they felt they could work with that budget, so I think we should just restore it and trust them that they've asked for what they need.
Anyone else have any questions? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote on the motion to increase the Board of Ed budget by $295,000. So that would be 76,332,587. Olga, would that be right? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
Good math, Walter.
Yeah. You know, brain still works once in a while. All right, take a vote now. Walter Bear?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Ryan?
No. No.
No.
No.
All right, no. That's 5 noes and 2 yeses, so the motion doesn't carry. Anyone else have any proposed amendments for the Board of Education side of the budget? Walter, that's right, I said you before, sorry. Senior memory now, doesn't work all
Well,
right.
I was going to ask if I could make comment first, but Ellen had proposed 295. My kickoff to that, or my addendum to that, would be that would be restored to the Board of Education, the original proposal, but that distribution of that 295 would be at the discretion of the school
Yeah,
superintendent.
that's, for those that are unfamiliar with the budgetary process, both the town council and the Board of Finance only has authority over the total amount of the budget, and everything within that budget is the full discretion of the Board of Education. Just so people know that. So all we're doing is talking about the total dollar amount for the budget, not how they employ those funds. Are we having any other amendments? Otherwise, go ahead, Joe.
No amendment, Walter? I just wanted to make sure. No? You sure? All right.
I'm good.
You're good, all right. In looking at the budget presentation, a couple of things for the Board of Education specifically, stood out to me. The first one was that we've had a steady decline in student population over, the last 10 years plus, right? We've lost, I think from our top student population, over 1,000 students. Then digging into the Connecticut State General Statutes, they outline a process by which a Board of Education budget could actually be reduced from the previous year's appropriation. And one of those conditions is a steady declining student population, and the other one is a closure of a school. Both of those things occurred in New Milford over the time that I've served on the Board of Finance. That would allow us to select a specific year in the last 5 years that had an actual student population decrease, multiply that by the appropriation of the last fiscal year, and then we could actually reduce the school budget by that amount. So I was looking through, and I found in, I think it was Board of Education fiscal year 23-24, or excuse me, 22-23 to 23-24, the district lost 81 students. At that calculation of half of the appropriation for the last fiscal year of $19,269 at that 81 students would be a reduction, right? So half of that dollar amount. We could actually reduce the Board of Education budget by $780,294.50. So that would put the appropriation at $72,672,114.50 instead of the, I just had it out here a second ago. What was it? 76, oh, it's up there, 76,037, right? So we could actually cut the budget by $3.4 million. Now, I have kids in the school district, right? So I don't necessarily want to do that, but I think that the best way to, affect positive change is sometimes to shock the system a little bit. And when you look at where the dollars are actually going in the school system and the school's performance, maybe some changes need to be made. Now, I don't know that I can necessarily stomach cutting the Board of Education by 3.4. Diane, you think no? Walter, could you cut no? Other, no, right. So maybe that's a little bit irrational, right? That might be a little bit of an extreme stance. But I do think that we can look at the budget and kind of push back a little bit to force some sort of hard look at where the dollars are actually going in the budget. Now, I think that we could probably go 81 students times the proposed expenditure per student on a strictly dollars basis of $20,520.25, whole amount of $1.662,140,140.56, which would put the Board of Education's fiscal year appropriation at a 1.6% increase over the last year, or roughly $74,670,446.43.
Olga, can you put that up on the
Just
screen?
make a motion?
That's my motion.
That's his motion.
That's my motion.
We're gonna read the amount again, 1, 4.
Nope, a reduction of 1.662, 140.56.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So essentially, you're taking the 3.6 reduction you were thinking about and just cutting that in half to 1.6 or 3.2%,
I mean,
roughly.
roughly,
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
but instead of actually cutting into the previous year's budget,
Yeah.
because I do think that, they have that the Board of Education definitely has some fixed expense increases and that sort of stuff, and this pushes into those fixed expense increases a little bit, where they have to make some hard choices and look at the budget, with, some sort of precision to figure out what it is exactly that they need versus what it is that they want.
Like you said, it's 19,000 by 81 students, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Roughly.
roughly.
Okay.
Walter?
Joseph, as kind of a spin-off of your comments there, Board of Education has to make hard choices all the time. There's so many factors out there. When they put together a budget, it is so fluid. They have no idea what kind of mandates are going to come down. You used the number 81 students.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if 10 of those students or 15 of those students are special ed students? Boy, they're not going to be sitting in a regular classroom with what you may identify as normal or regular kids. They need a lot of hugging going around. They need a lot of input from a variety of people. It may take 2, it may take 3 besides the classroom teacher. So I got a problem with your numbers and your reduction. I certainly would vote no for that.
I agree with Walter, and we've heard very eloquent presentations about the challenges of the student population since COVID, and not just because of COVID, but the change in the student population here in New Milford. And the COVID challenges you hear about are nationwide, and their impact on test scores and emotional well-being. I think teaching and raising these children is much more complicated in the last 5 years than it was previously, and we need to make sure we fund. Even the federal government was giving grants to communities for counselors in public schools because of the recognition that the impact that COVID had and being remote learning and the challenges that created both for performance and emotional well-being. So I think we need to make sure we're properly funding for the students we do have. And our population is not going to keep necessarily going down with all the buildings here in the community. So we need to make sure that the schools are able to take in new students that may be moving into the properties that are being built in town.
Anyone else have any comments on the proposed amendment by Mr. Di Gregorio? Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we will take a roll call vote on the reduction of existing Board of Ed budget in the amount of $1,662,140. Did I read that correctly, Olga?
Well, you have 56 cents.
Oh.
Can we forego that?
What?
She wants to know if you want to.
Oh, you can leave it in, you can take it out. That's 56 cents. They can have the 56 cents.
I'll go with Walter's motion.
There you go.
Keep things
I like numbers. Round numbers.
Okay.
What is that final motion before passes? What is it before?
That would come out to, I can't read it on this angle.
What's your question?
What's that final BOA number if it passes?
We're on an angle, we can't read it, Olga.
The final,
Was the BOE?
Yeah.
74,375,447.
Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Walter?
No.
Ellen?
No.
Brian?
Yes.
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 No. There's 4 yeses and 3 noes. The amendment carries. Is there any other amendments on the Board of Education side of the town budget? Hearing none. Olga, what does that leave at the total for the
So the total,
26 budget?
the total budget in the town board of education is 121,980,448.
121,980,448.
448.
I knew I was missing a number
As
in there.
presented, it will yield a 30.50 mils as a mill rate.
30.05 mils,
30.50,
50 mils.
which is a 2.45% increase from the current mill rate.
Right at the rate of inflation.
Okay, motion, I'm gonna put a motion before the board to approve the total town budget for the 26 fiscal year of $1,219,000, no, I'm sorry, $121,980,448. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call vote?
No.
No.
Yes.
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 And yes. Walter and Ellen voted no, and everybody else yes. And that concludes this evening's work on Board of Finance formulating the budget, and now goes to town meeting and eventual referendum. Thank everybody for the town and everybody that was here. And Mr. Bear, motion to,
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
their second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank everybody.